There's so many different organizations that are affected with mind control that we cannot be misled into believing that it's just one particular group of people or another. We can't even say that this is Democrats or Republicans.
No.
This has nothing to do with party lines. What it has to do with is a New World Order agenda. When I was under mind control, before I was rescued and my mind and my memory restored, I was totally robotic. I had no ability to think for myself. I had no ability to question or to reason. I could only do exactly what I was told to do. One thing that I was told to do was to attend a White House cocktail party. This was during the Reagan-Bush administration while Ronald Reagan was president. It was on one occasion in particular that I heard Ronald Reagan talking with then Prime Minister of Canada, Brian Mulroney, who was also involved in this New World Order effort. And he said at that time that he believed the only way to world peace is through mind control of the masses. This is terrifying in proportion, especially when, having experienced mind control, I know that there is no peace of mind under mind control. Without free thought, there's no free will. Without God-given free will, there's no spiritual expression. And I wonder, what kind of a so-called world peace can we have where people have no peace of mind, where they have no spiritual expression, when they're not even in touch with their own identity? Or it's very frightening in proportion when we consider the ramifications of what all mind control entails and how anyone can justify a robotic society under the so-called world peace guise, which is actually the New World Order world dominance effort.
In around 1970, Ronald Reagan, then the governor of California, introduced to the legislature a request for a bond hearing because he wanted to introduce mind control into the California state prison system and as well as the mental health system. Well, the type of mind control that Ronald Reagan was wanting to introduce was a combination of what is now known as chemical lobotomies, in addition to trauma-based conditioning, very much in the Pavlovian sense. Ronald Reagan almost lost his bid for governor because the people rejected this idea so vehemently. But in fact, according to Freedom of Information Act information that has been released as a result of the MKUltra being exposed in 1977, these abuses and this mind control was in fact introduced in the Vacaville prison in particular. There's voluminous information about the role that the CIA played in really harming a great number of people in that facility. Now, there's also powerful evidence that is surfaced with regards to the MKUltra being introduced in the mental health system, particularly within the state of California under Ronald Reagan's jurisdiction and certainly his blessings. Now, Ronald Reagan is not necessarily a target of our expose. He just happens to be one of Cathy's abusers that she has written about and that we have been able to get documented extensively.
It was my experience that Ronald Reagan took orders directly from George Bush. George Bush was one of the highest up that I'm aware of, if not the highest up that I was ever exposed to during the course of my White House Pentagon level mind control victimization. George Bush began with the United Nations. He went on to head our CIA. And then by everything that I witnessed and experienced, it was George Bush who was in control of our country through 3 administrations, because Ronald Reagan answers to George Bush. Then George Bush was in office himself. And after that, Bill Clinton went into office. And I heard Bill Clinton and George Bush once discussing how when the American populace became disillusioned with Republicans in control of our country, bringing us into the New World Order, that Bill Clinton, as a Democrat, would be put into office. And it was also my experience to have witnessed Bill Clinton answering to George Bush. So we certainly aren't blaming everything on George Bush. There's a lot of other players that are named in our book, Transformation of America. But it's very important that people understand who's at the top of this effort so that they know exactly what the problem really is.
We have been crisscrossing the United States and Canada now since November. It is now June of 1996, and we have addressed literally tens of thousands of people in increments of anywhere between 50 people and 1,000 at a time. The response and the reception from the common everyday person who's exposed to, we feel like, this information for the very first time was phenomenally positive, because they did understand more, and their analytical and critical analysis abilities to refer to things such as Jonestown and the fact that Sirhan was writing mind control on everything, and the peculiarities involving cases like for instance, the same psychiatrist that was sent in to evaluate Sirhan had also evaluated Lee Harvey Oswald, and has recently been sent in to evaluate Timothy McVeigh. This particular physician is attached to the UCLA neuropsychiatric department, and his name is Jolyon West. He is also a CIA psychiatrist. It's a published fact. As a matter of fact, the only thing that Dr. West can be accredited for is killing an elephant with an overdose of LSD in front of a lot of little school children at the San Diego Zoo. But the fact remains is that Jolyon West is a heavy player in all of this. As a matter of fact, right after I rescued Cathy, it seemed as though that Jolyon West was the first one on the scene to contact us. And after a brief telephone discussion with him and explaining to him very slowly that I did not want him to consult on this case, that I was interested only in getting the information as best I could, as I was being fed a CIA field grade method for deprogramming that involved nothing more than allowing Cathy to deprogram herself by deprogramming the programs first. It has no coercion. There are practically no questions involved. I didn't have to know any of the information she was disclosing or anything about it. As a matter of fact, all of it came as a surprise to me. I wasn't aware of any of the things that she was talking about. They weren't in my realm of reality. However, we had, with the cooperation of numerous persons both on the inside of the federal government as well as on the state levels, we enjoyed a tremendous amount of cooperation for developing corroboration for the testimonies that she was providing. She also provided detailed maps, and of course, fortunately, when I rescued Cathy, she was still legally entitled to open a home safe that she had access to in this place that she was being kept at Alex Houston's residence in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. And this Alex Houston character was her handler, and he did maintain a diary of codes, keys, and triggers. He also maintained a diary and phone directory containing such names notable as Dick Thornburg and a drug deal that he had with him, and Bill Clinton's home phone number happens to be in there. So in Arkansas. So it provided us with an avenue of relief, since the codes, keys, and triggers would help me develop the information on a much more accurate basis, because you cannot quiz these people or lead them in questions.
Instead, it was a very natural process in one regard. When he rescued my daughter Kelly and I in 1988, Kelly and I were safe for the first time. We weren't being hurt in any way. We saw how Mark was was very gentle with his animals. His pets loved him, which was highly unusual for us. Everyone that we'd ever known abused their animals. It seems that abuse of animals and abuse of children oftentimes goes hand in hand. But nevertheless, we felt safe for the first time, and we developed a trust for Mark. This trust factor was very significant in the recovery process, because it was when we felt this kind of trust that the memories of what had happened to us all those years under mind control began flashing across our mind screen. And Mark taught me how to write out my memories, to journal them, to put them on paper. I was extremely fortunate to be able to accurately recall all those things that I'd photographically recorded under mind control, particularly on the White House Pentagon level. This information that I was able to remember as a result of Mark's expertise is what's been documented in our book, Transformation of America. My daughter Kelly was not so fortunate. Once she began remembering, she went into a respiratory failure and was hospitalized in Humana Hospital in Anchorage, Alaska. It was through a series of well-orchestrated events by some of her politically affluent abusers that thrust Kelly into the custody of the state of Tennessee, where she remains a political prisoner to date. Kelly is denied rehabilitation due to who and what she knows is involved in MK Ultra mind control, due to who and what she knows is involved in her personal victimization. Kelly is waiting the day that good people will join voices and be effective in taking back our government and getting these secrets that have been covered up under national security released.
So-called national security.
So that she can be helped. This blanket of national security is certainly threatening the security of our nation when it covers up such horrible crimes as have been perpetrated against humanity by those in control of our government.